We're taught from a young age that learning is the key to success. Go to school, read books, watch tutorials, listen to podcasts. Just keep adding more knowledge. And yes, knowledge is powerful. But what most people never realize is this: the ability to unlearn is even more important than the ability to learn. Think of your mind like a hard drive. If it's already full of outdated, corrupted, or useless files, no matter how much new data you try to upload, it's going to crash or run slow. You can't expect to operate at your best if your brain is cluttered with bad ideas, false beliefs, or old habits that no longer serve you. That's why unlearning comes first. Take a moment to think about where your current beliefs about success, money, confidence, and self-worth come from. Most likely, you didn't consciously choose them. They were handed to you by teachers, parents, media, and society. If you grew up hearing that rich people are greedy, or that money is the root of all evil, or that success is only for the lucky, you may have unconsciously accepted those things as truth. Now, those beliefs are buried in your thinking, shaping every decision you make, often without even realizing it. You try to learn how to invest, start a business, or build better habits, but that new knowledge struggles to stick. Why? Because the foundation is cracked. You're trying to plant new seeds in toxic soil until you uproot the bad beliefs and habits. Well, nothing sustainable will grow. Let's break it down further. Well, if someone believes deep down that they're not good with money, no amount of budgeting tips or financial advice will change that. They'll self-sabotage without even knowing they're doing it. Or if someone's been told all their life that they're not smart, they'll approach learning with hesitation and fear, always holding back, always second-guessing themselves. That's why step one isn't to learn something new. It's to unlearn what's been holding you back. Unlearning isn't about forgetting facts or erasing memories. It's about challenging assumptions. It's about stepping back and asking yourself, why do I believe this? Who gave me this idea? Does this belief serve the life I want to build? If the answer is no, then it's time to remove it. This process requires humility. Well, it means admitting that some of what you've believed your whole life might be wrong. It means letting go of pride and accepting that the old way of thinking, the one that's kept you stuck, needs to go. That's not weakness. That's courage. Here's a simple example. A lot of people are taught to fear failure. School punishes it. Society shames it. But in business and personal growth, failure is essential. It's how you learn. It's how you improve. So to succeed, well, you have to unlearn the fear of failing. You have to replace it with a mindset that sees failure as feedback, not final, or take the idea of time. Many people are stuck believing they don't have time to pursue their goals. That belief acts like a mental wall, preventing them from even starting. But when you unlearn that excuse, you start to see time differently. You see that it's not about having time, it's about making time. Suddenly, the wall disappears and you can move forward. Unlearning is also about letting go of habits, especially mental habits, complaining, blaming, procrastinating. Well, avoiding discomfort. These are all learned behaviors. You weren't born with them. You picked them up by watching others or through years of repetition. Well, and just like they were learned, they can be unlearned. It starts with awareness, then intention, then consistent action in a new direction. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They try to stack new goals, routines, and plans on top of a mind full of resistance. They consume endless content, chase productivity hacks, read book after book, hoping for a breakthrough. But nothing hinges. Why? Because the real problem isn't lack of information. It's the presence of too many outdated beliefs. This is why people feel overwhelmed or stuck, even while trying their hardest. It's like trying to sprint with ankle weights on. You're putting in the effort, but the weight of unchallenged thinking holds you back. You need to pause, strip away the noise, and clear the space so that when you do learn, it actually sticks. It actually works. Well, unlearning isn't glamorous. It doesn't get likes or go viral. It's internal work, the kind that doesn't look exciting but changes everything from the inside out. It's uncomfortable at times. Your questions you once held as sacred. You might even feel lost in the process. That's okay. That's part of growth. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding the parts that never belonged in the first place. No one is born making excuses. Watch any child trying to walk. They don't say, this is too hard, or maybe walking isn't for me. They fall, get back up, fall again, and keep going. That instinct, The drive to keep moving forward is built into us. But as we grow older, something shifts. Start hearing voices that tell us to slow down. Well, back off, play it safe. Those voices aren't natural. They're taught. Eventually, we start repeating them to ourselves. That's where excuses come from. Excuses are not hardwired into your DNA. You weren't born thinking you're not smart enough, talented enough, rich enough, young enough, or experienced enough. You learn to think that way from your environment, your experiences, the people you spent time with. And because they were repeated often enough, they started to feel like facts. But just because a thought feels true doesn't mean it is. Take a look at how excuses usually form. A person tries something new, a skill, a business idea, a relationship, and it doesn't go as planned. Maybe they fail, maybe they get rejected, maybe someone laughs at them. Instead of viewing it as part of the process, they internalize it. The mind goes, see, you're not cut out for this. Then the excuse is born, I'm just not good at this. Or people like me don't succeed doing things like that. What's worse is that the people around us often reinforce those excuses. Family, teachers, friends, not always out of malice, but out of fear or their own limited thinking. Pass down a cautious mindset. They say things like, don't aim too high, or be realistic, or that's not for people like us. And when you hear those things enough times, you stop questioning them. You accept them as reality, but they're not reality. They're just recycled limitations. Now, here's the trap. When someone believes their excuse is real, well, they don't even try to challenge it. They build their identity around it. Well, I'm just not a business-minded person. I'm bad with money. I'm not confident enough to speak in front of people. These aren't truths. They're defense mechanisms. They're mental shields people use to avoid the discomfort of growth, the fear of failure, or the embarrassment of starting small. Let's be brutally honest here. Most excuses are lies wrapped in emotion. They sound convincing, they feel safe, but deep down just protecting you from effort, from taking responsibility, from the risk of discovering what you're truly capable of. And what makes them so dangerous is how subtle they are. Excuses don't always show up as laziness or fear. Sometimes they wear the disguise of lodging. Oh, I'll start once I have more money. I just need a bit more time. I'm waiting for the right opportunity. All of those sound reasonable on the surface, but underneath, they're just delays. They're stall tactics, because the truth is most people don't need more time or money. They need more commitment, more urgency, more grit. You can always find someone with less than you who's doing more. Less education, less money, less experience, but more action. Why? Because they didn't accept excuses as reality. They saw them for what they were, learned behaviors that could be unlearned. It's important to recognize that excuses don't just slow you down. They rob you of growth. Every time you say, I can't, you shut the door on a lesson. Every time you say, I'm not ready, you delay the very experience that would make you ready. Growth only happens when you step up beyond the excuse and do it anyway. This doesn't mean your excuses don't feel real. They do. Fear feels real. Doubt feels real. Lack of confidence feels real. But just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to obey it. Emotions can guide you, but they shouldn't govern your choices, especially when they're based on stories that were never yours to begin with. There's a hard truth most people are avoiding. Every excuse has a cost. It may not seem like much in the moment, but over time, those excuses stack up. They form the walls of a prison you build with your own thoughts. And one day, well, you look around and realize you're stuck in a life that's smaller than what you're capable of. Not because the world held you back, but because you believed the wrong things and never questioned them. But beliefs can be rewritten, habits can be broken, excuses can be replaced with execution. The first step is being brutally honest with yourself. Ask, where did this excuse come from? Who taught me to think this way? And is it serving me? You'll find that most of the time the answer is no. And once you see that clearly, you gain power over it. Most people think success is about working harder, doing more, hustling longer hours, or stacking more skills. And yes, effort matters. But effort without direction is just motion, not progress. The truth is, success doesn't start with doing. It starts with thinking. Specifically, clear thinking. If your mind is fogged up with doubt, fear, distractions, or emotional clutter, it doesn't matter how smart or skilled you are. You'll either waste energy on the wrong things or never get started at all. Mental clarity is the foundation of real long-term success. Without it, you chase goals that aren't yours, compare yourself to people who don't matter, and get stuck in loops, overthinking and second guessing. You become busy instead of effective. You react instead of lead. You consume instead of create. The world is noisy. Social media, notifications, emails, ads, opinions, expectations. They're all fighting for your attention. If you're not intentional about protecting your focus, you'll spend your entire reacting to things that don't move your life forward. You'll get to the end of the week exhausted, wondering why nothing changed. Mental clarity starts with learning how to filter. Not everything that comes into your head deserves your attention. Not every thought is worth entertaining. Well, you have to be ruthless about what you allow to take up space in your mind. If a thought doesn't serve your goals, doesn't build you up, or doesn't align with your values, let go. Well, most people don't have focus problems. They have clutter problems. They're trying to build an empire with a desk buried in junk. Clarity means knowing what you're actually trying to achieve. A lot of people say they want success, but when you ask them what that looks like, they freeze. If you can't define what you want, you can't build a plan to get there. Vague goals lead to vague results. Specific thinking leads to specific outcomes. Clarity gives you direction, and direction gives you momentum. It also protects your energy. When your mind is clear, you don't waste time chasing every trend idea or opportunity. You stop saying yes to everything just because it sounds exciting. You learn to say no, not because you're lazy or negative, but because you're focused. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve your vision, you say yes to something that does. And let's be real, you can't think clearly if your head is full of distractions. That means cutting out the mental junk food, endlessly scrolling on your phone, binge watching shows to escape your problems, filling every quiet moment with noise. All of that chips away at your ability to think deeply. Success isn't found in chaos, it's found in stillness. In being able to sit with your thoughts long enough to figure out what actually matters, you need time to think, time to reflect, time to plan. Most people never give themselves that space and then wonder why they feel lost. They're too busy reacting to what's urgent to figure out what's important. Urgency creates stress. Importance creates structure. When your mind is clear, you don't confuse the two. Another part of clarity is emotional control. When your emotions run your decisions, clarity disappears. Fear clouds judgment. Anger leads to regret. Anxiety freezes progress. You need to be able to step back, observe what you're feeling, and choose your response. That's how high performers operate. They don't let their emotions drive the car. Emotions are the passengers, useful but not in control. Clarity also means removing mental contradictions. You can't say you want to succeed but also believe that success is selfish. You can't say you want freedom but keep thinking like a victim. Those kinds of internal conflicts create resistance. They pull you in opposite directions and leave you stuck. Success requires alignment between what you say, what you believe, and what you do. You also need clarity about who you are. If you don't know your strengths, your weaknesses, your values and your purpose, you'll spend your life trying to be someone else. You'll copy instead of lead. You'll mimic what looks successful without ever asking, is this right for me? And that leads to burnout, not fulfillment. This is why journaling, goal setting, meditation, deep work, all the things that sound boring are actually critical. They give you space to think. They help you sort the signal from the noise. They don't make you soft. They make you sharp. Because clarity isn't just about removing distractions. It's about strengthening direction. When your mind is clear, decisions are faster. You stop overthinking. Well, you trust your instincts. You act with purpose. And every step you take compounds. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in the human mind. It shapes decisions, alters behavior, and holds more people back from success than failure ever will. The tricky part. Fear is subtle. It rarely shows up as full-blown panic. Most of the time, it disguises itself as logic, comfort, or even responsibility. Now's not the right time. What if it doesn't work? I should play it safe. These thoughts sound smart, but they're really fear wearing a suit. Here's the thing. Fear is not a sign to stop. It's a signal to pay attention. It's an indicator that something matters, that there's risk, but also potential reward. Most people misunderstand fear. They think it's there to protect them from harm. In some cases, that's true. If you're being chased by a wild animal, fear is useful. But when it comes to building a business, learning a new skill, investing in yourself, or stepping into the unknown, fear usually does the opposite, protect you. It traps you. people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they let fear stop them before they even begin. They're afraid of judgment, afraid of embarrassment, afraid of losing money, time, or face. So they play small. They delay. They distract themselves. And the worst part, they convince themselves that it's rational, that it's the smart thing to do. But deep down, well, they know it's fear making the decisions. Now, here's the truth that most people never heard. Fear isn't the problem. Your interpretation of fear is you've been trained to treat fear like a wall, something to avoid, something that means danger. But successful people see fear differently. They flip the script. Well, they treat fear like a compass. If something scares them, but excites them at the same time, they know they're heading in the right direction. The most transformative moments in life often come wrapped in fear. First time speaking in public, first time pitching a product, first investment, first leap into the unknown. Well, in all these moments, fear shows up. That tight chest, the sweaty palms, racing mind. It's all part of the package. But that feeling doesn't mean stop. It means this matters. The goal isn't to eliminate fear. You'll never fully get rid of it. The goal is to move anyway, to acknowledge the fear, feel it, and take action despite it. That's what courage is. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in its presence. Every time you do that, you train your brain. You teach it that fear doesn't control you, that you're in charge. And here's where the shift happens. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Start asking, what if I succeed? Instead of imagining the worst case scenario, imagine the best. That simple mental flip changes everything. Suddenly, fear becomes fuel, a source of energy, not paralysis. You stop focusing on what you might lose. Start focusing on what you'd gain. This isn't just mindset fluff. It's practical. That job you didn't apply for because you didn't feel ready. Fear. That idea you haven't launched because it's not perfect yet. Fear. That conversation you've avoided for months because it might get uncomfortable. Fear. Flip it. What could happen if you leaned in instead of pulled away? And don't confuse fear with intuition. Intuition is calm, grounded, and quiet. Fear is loud, panicky, and full of urgency. Learn to tell the difference. When fear tells you to back off, it often means you're about to grow. You're about to level up. Well, that's why fear tends to get louder right before breakthroughs, because your brain wants to keep you in your comfort zone. But nothing great happens there. One way to reframe fear is to ask yourself better questions. Instead of, what if I mess this up? Ask, what will I miss if I don't try? Instead of, what if people judge me? Ask, what if someone is inspired by me? These questions shift your brain from protection mode to possibility mode. And that shift opens doors that would have stayed shut. Another tactic, think long term. Fear thrives in short-term thinking. It exaggerates the moment and shrinks your vision. When you zoom out 1 year, 5 years, 10 years ahead, you realize that most of the things you're afraid of today won't matter. But the regret of inaction, that sticks around. The cost of playing it safe, that compounds. Fear doesn't go away on its own. It lingers. It feeds on your silence and indecision. The longer you let run the show, the stronger it gets. But when you face it, when you flip the script, you take away its power. Your mind is one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have. It can create ideas, solve problems, plan strategies, and build the life you want. But only if you control it. Most people never realize that their mind is supposed to serve them, not rule them. They live as slaves to their own thoughts, reacting to every impulse, doubt, worry, and distraction like puppets being pulled by invisible strings. Here's the true thing. If you don't train your mind, it trains you. And if you let it run wild, it becomes a source of chaos instead of clarity. Your mind wasn't built to keep you happy or successful. It was built to keep you safe from risk, safe from danger, safe from discomfort. It evolved to survive, not to thrive. And that survival mechanism still operates today, even though the threats are no longer lions or starvation. Now it's uncertainty, rejection, failure, and change. That's why when you try to do something new or uncomfortable, start a business, change careers, step into leadership, your mind often pushes back. It tells you to wait, to hesitate, to reconsider. That voice in your head says, what if this doesn't work? Or you're not ready yet. Or one else is already doing it better. That's not your intuition talking. That's an untrained mind doing what it's always done, avoiding perceived danger. You have to understand that thoughts are not commands. Just because your mind throws something, it doesn't mean you have to accept it. Most people never learn this. They believe every thought they have is true. Well, I'm not good enough. This will never work. They won't take me seriously. And then they act on those thoughts, not because they're accurate, but because they feel real. But your mind is like a muscle. What you feed it, how you use it, how you challenge it, that determines how strong and useful it becomes. If you let it default to fear, negativity, and distraction, that becomes your pattern. But if you discipline it, if you direct it toward focus, clarity, and purpose, it becomes your ally. Look around. The people who are crushing it, the ones building businesses, leading teams, living on their own terms, aren't superhuman. They've just learned how to use their minds as weapons, not weaknesses. They're not smarter than you. They've just trained themselves to think differently, to interrupt doubt, to reject excuses, to override hesitation. And this kind of mental control isn't about suppressing emotions or ignoring reality. It's about ownership. It's about recognizing when your thoughts are helping you and when they're holding you back. It's learning to pause and ask, is this thought useful? Is it moving me forward? Or is it just noise? Every time you catch yourself spiraling into overthinking, comparison, self-doubt, that's a moment to take control. Instead of being a passenger, grab the wheel. Choose the next thought. Choose next action, because that's the leverage point. That's where change happens. Not in huge, dramatic decisions, but in small moments of mental discipline. Here's a tactic you can use right now. You treat your mind like an employee, not a boss. When your employee starts panicking, complaining, or slacking off, what do? You redirect. You remind them of the mission. You don't take orders from them. You don't let them derail the operation. Same thing with your mind. Well, a thought shows up saying, this is too hard. You respond. That's not relevant right now. Focus on the next step. Another way to put it, your mind is a tool, like a hammer or a knife. In the right hands, it builds. In the wrong hands, it destroys. Used with skill, it cuts through noise, solves problems, creates value. Used poorly, it causes damage to your confidence, your relationships, your results. But either way, you are the one holding it. The tool doesn't decide what to build. You do. That means it's your job to set the tone. Start your day with intention. Feed your brain with what strengthens it. Books, strategy, silence, hard problems, not gossip, mindless scrolling, and outrage. Your mental diet matters just as much as your physical one. Garbage in, garbage out. Build systems that protect your focus. Create environments that support clarity. Surround yourself with people who sharpen you, not dull you. Well, every one of these things reinforces the truth that you are in charge, not your moods, not your thoughts, your emotions. We live in a world addicted to movement, constant action, constant noise, constant chasing. Everyone's in a hurry to get somewhere, to build something, to prove they're doing more than the next person. It's a world where hustle is praised and stillness is misunderstood, where slowing down is seen as weakness and pausing's like falling behind. But here's the truth. No one tells stillness isn't laziness. It's power. Real power. The kind that separates thinkers from reactors, leaders from followers, and builders from burnouts. Because while the world is busy running in circles, the people who master stillness are the ones who see clearly, act deliberately, well, and win long term. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things at the right time for the right reasons. It's about resisting the pressure to always respond, always perform, always keep up, and instead stepping back, observing, and choosing your moves with precision. That's what power looks like. Not panic, frenzy, calm control. The problem is, most people are terrified of stillness. The moment things get quiet, they reach for their phone, turn on a screen, or fill the silence with some kind of noise. In the silence, the real thoughts start to surface, the uncomfortable truths, the questions they've been avoiding, the realization that their business is a mask, covering confusion, fear, or a lack of direction. That's why stillness is uncomfortable at first. It forces you to face yourself. No distractions, no outside input, just you, your thoughts and your reality. And for many people, that's too much. So they run back into the noise and wonder why nothing changes, why they feel lost, burnt out, or stuck. But if you can sit in that stillness, if you can learn to be your own thoughts without needing to escape them, you unlock something most people never will: mental leverage. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. You start seeing patterns others miss. You start hearing your own voice again, not the voice of society or your peers or the algorithm, but your own. Stillness gives you time to think. And thinking is a superpower in a world that's forgotten how to do it. Most people don't think. They repeat, they echo opinions, they scroll for answers. They outsource their direction to influencers and trends. But real progress, real strategy, real creation, that only comes when you step back, block out the noise, and think for yourself. This is why some of the greatest minds in history, philosophers, inventors, entrepreneurs, all valued solitude and reflection, because they understood that clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from stillness. That's where ideas are born. That's where decisions are made. That's where vision gets sharpened. And no, stillness doesn't mean sitting cross-legged on a mountain with your eyes closed 6 hours a day. It can be as simple as going for a walk without headphones, journaling your thoughts in the morning, turning your phone off for an hour, sitting in your car before going into a meeting, taking 5 minutes, just breathe and reset. These are small practices, but they create massive impact, because when you create space, insight has room to show up. You start to notice things you didn't before, the small cues, the gut feelings, the mental noise that's been driving your decisions unconsciously. You gain distance from the problem, and from that distance, the solution becomes obvious. That's the advantage of stillness. It's not time wasted. It's time invested. And this isn't just about inner peace. It's strategic. The best leaders don't rush. They don't let urgency dictate their actions. They observe. They analyze. They think ahead, because they know that in business and in life, clarity beats speed. Anyone can sprint. Not everyone can steer. Stillness helps you steer. Stillness also helps you regulate your emotions. It puts space between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting out of fear, anger, or pressure, you respond with intention. Well, that's how you stay in control when things get hard. That's how you avoid making decisions you'll regret. Stillness sharpens your emotional intelligence, and in high-stakes situations, what separates amateurs from professionals? In a world obsessed with doing more, be the one who pauses to ask, why am I doing this? In a culture that glorifies speed, be the one who values direction. Stillness isn't weakness. It's how you gather strength. It's how you protect your energy, align with your purpose, and act when it actually matters. When you operate from that place, you move with power, not panic. You lead with purpose, not pressure. You execute with clarity, not